At 6:17 hours on July 11, 1944, Private Daniel Kroft lies buried beneath a Norman hedgerow, his body pressed into a tunnel he carved with an entrenching tool and bare hands sometime after midnight. The location is a nameless field on the western edge of the Battle of Normandy, a place not marked on any map but already soaked into the memory of every man pinned down beyond it. The tunnel is barely 18 inches high. Kroft cannot lift his head. His left cheek rests against damp chalk soil, cool and granular, smelling faintly of crushed roots and rot. The tunnel runs just under 9 feet from entrance to firing slit, barely wide enough for his shoulders. Above him, the hedgerow's root mass forms a natural parapet, oak, thorn, and compacted earth that has stopped bullets before. He trusts it the way a working man trusts a beam he didn't install but has leaned on all his life. The temperature hovers at 63 degrees Fahrenheit. The air is heavy with mist and the low, sour odor of diesel drifting from a disabled half-track somewhere behind American lines. Sweat pools between his shoulder blades, trapped beneath wool and webbing. He does not wipe it away. Movement is expensive here. Ahead, 8 German grenadiers hold the field. 2 of them man machine guns, both *MG42**S, set 30 yards apart, their barrels angled to create overlapping fire lanes that rake the open ground where Kroft's platoon is pinned. Each burst lasts 3 to 4 seconds. Each pause, precisely counted, lasts just long enough to swap belts. Kroft has timed it. He always times it. The sound is unmistakable. Not a staccato crack, but a tearing rip, like canvas being pulled apart at impossible speed. 1,200 rounds a minute, sometimes more. The hedgerow absorbs most of it. Men do not. For 27 minutes, the American platoon has been immobile. 2 wounded lie behind a fold in the earth, crying out only when they forget to stay quiet. 1 man is already dead, face down in grass flattened by rounds that kept coming long after his helmet rolled free. No orders come down the line. Radios crackle once, then go silent. Doctrine has no answer for this, not quickly enough. Kroft breathes through his nose, counts, 4 seconds of fire, 3 seconds of silence, again. He listens not just for the guns, but for the men behind them, for boots shifting, for shouted corrections, for the faint metallic clatter when a belt is seated wrong. Beside him, laid carefully on folded burlap, is the rifle. It is not regulation in any meaningful sense, same caliber, same action, but altered in ways that earned quiet smirks during inspection and open jokes when backs were turned, too heavy in the wrong places, balance off. Sights that don't belong where the manual says they should. One corporal had laughed and said, "That thing ain't gonna stop a sewing machine, let alone a kraut gun." Kroft did not argue then, he rarely does. He slides the rifle forward an inch at a time until the barrel rests just shy of the firing slit, a gap no wider than a man's fist, framed by roots and packed soil. Through it, the field beyond appears in fragments. A sliver of sky, a strip of grass, the angular shadow of a gun shield. Visibility is no more than 110 yards, reduced further by lingering mist and churned earth. The Germans are confident. They have reason to be. Their positions are elevated by less than 4 feet, but it is enough. Their fire lanes intersect at calculated angles, 15 degrees off centerline, covering every likely approach. They are veterans or trained by veterans. They have not rushed, they have not wasted ammunition. Kroft's right hand tightens around the stock. The wood is slick with oil and sweat. He feels the familiar weight settle into his shoulder, not heavy, not light, but precise. His finger rests alongside the trigger guard. Not yet. Another burst rips across the field. Brass casings clatter against steel. A shouted command in German, short, sharp, reload, silence stretches. In that silence, Kroft adjusts his body by half an inch. The tunnel roof presses harder into his spine. A root digs into his forearm. He ignores it. He angles the barrel upward by 2 degrees, compensating for the slight rise in ground and the morning damp that will drag at the shot. He chooses his first target, not the machine gunner, the assistant, the man feeding the belt. Kroft exhales slowly. The safety clicks off, soft but final. Outside, the mist begins to lift, just enough to change the light. No one in the platoon knows what he is about to do. No officer has ordered it. If it fails, there will be consequences if he survives long enough to face them. The next burst is due in less than 3 seconds. Kroft waits. In the next 38 minutes, 8 men, 2 machine guns, and an entire ambush line will disappear without a single order being given. Daniel Kroft was born in 1918, in the shadow of blast furnaces on the industrial edge of Cleveland. The neighborhood did not bother with names. It was defined by what stood nearby, the rail spur, the steel works, the river that ran the wrong color after a long shift. Houses were narrow, close set, their siding permanently dulled by soot. Windows stayed shut even in summer. Laundry smelled faintly of coal no matter how often it was washed. His father, Anton Kroft, was a millwright, 6 days a week inside a steel plant where tolerances were tight and mistakes were punished in missing fingers. His mother stitched collars at a garment factory until her eyes gave out. Nothing in the household was wasted. Nails were straightened, wood scraps were saved, meat came when it could be shot, not when it could be afforded. Daniel learned early that precision mattered. If something was off by a fraction, it failed. If you rushed, you paid for it. He followed his father into the woods outside the city on weekends, carrying a rifle older than both of them. They did not hunt for trophies, they hunted to eat. 1 round was brought, 1 round was expected to be enough. Misses were discussed quietly on the walk home, not with anger but with analysis, wind, breath, position. At 16, Kroft left school and took an apprenticeship as a tool and die machinist in a shop that built press components for automotive plants. The work was exacting, 10-hour shifts, steel blocks clamped and unclamped. Measurements taken with micrometers that read down to thousandths of an inch. There was no room for interpretation. Either the part fit or it didn't. He learned to work inside confined spaces, arms threaded into machines where visibility was partial and movement restricted. He learned to trust feel over sight. He learned patience. 5 years passed that way. More if you counted the weekends when he stayed late to correct mistakes that weren't his but couldn't be ignored. Shooting when it came was an extension of the same discipline. He did not fire often. He fired deliberately, breath controlled, muscles relaxed. He learned how damp air dragged a bullet, how heat shimmer lied about distance. No instructor taught him this, experience did. On December 7, 1941, the radio announcement reached the shop floor just before lunch, Pearl Harbor. The machines were shut down one by one. No one spoke at first. Then someone swore, someone else asked where Hawaii was. Kroft said nothing. He finished his shift. He enlisted in early 1942, not out of spectacle or speeches, but because it was expected. Infantry, replacement pool. The Army valued uniformity. Kroft was quiet, methodical, and already out of step. Basic training rewarded speed and volume. Fire faster, advance sooner. Kroft's habit of waiting, of choosing shots, drew reprimands. Instructors told him he was thinking too much. You'll get men killed hesitating, one sergeant said. Kroft did not argue, he simply did not change. When he reached his stateside unit, the nicknames came quickly. Clockmaker. Slow hand, none were meant kindly. During downtime, informal shooting contests broke out. Kroft rarely participated unless pressed. When he did, the results unsettled people. Too consistent, too calm. Officers noticed, but not favorably. His equipment drew scrutiny, small adjustments, non-standard choices. That's not how we do it, they said. Forms were filled out, some things were confiscated. Others slipped through inspection unnoticed. By the time he shipped out, division orders stamped, rifles racked, Atlantic crossing endured, Kroft understood the gap. Between doctrine and terrain, between regulation and reality. England reinforced it. Hedgerow training fields built to simulate Normandy failed to capture the truth of it. The earth there was older, denser. It stopped bullets and hid men in ways no manual accounted for. When Kroft landed in France in 1944, he carried the same quiet habits with him. He did not announce what he could do. He waited. And in Normandy, waiting was the only thing that kept you alive. The failure is not courage. It is geometry. By early July 1944, American infantry doctrine is colliding headlong with the Norman countryside. The manuals were written for rolling fields, tree lines you could see through, distances that allowed maneuver. Normandy offers none of that. It offers hedgerows, bocage, earthen walls packed with roots, some 8 to 12 feet thick, topped with brush that swallows men whole. From a distance, they look like cover. Up close, they are cages. Private Daniel Kroft sees the problem the first week after landing. He does not need a briefing. He watches bullets strike hedgerow banks and vanish. He watches men do everything they were trained to do, advance by rushes, throw smoke, suppress with volume, and still fall where they stand. German infantry has already adapted. Their doctrine bends faster. Machine guns are not placed for visibility, but for denial. Fields are measured, angles calculated. Fire lanes overlap just enough that a man pinned by one gun is exposed to another when he moves. The centerpiece is always the same. The MG-42, set back just far enough to survive grenades, fed by assistants who know exactly when to reload and exactly when to fire. American riflemen are taught to shoot at what they can see. In Normandy, what matters is what you can't. Within 10 days, Kroft's platoon loses men not in attacks, but in pauses, moments between orders, moments when doctrine hesitates because the terrain does not match expectation. The first is Private First Class Harold Mullen, age 22, from Toledo, Ohio. He is crossing a gap no wider than 30 yards, moving low, doing everything right. The burst catches him mid-step. Kroft hears the sound before he sees the fall, a flat, wet thump as Mullen's chest hits the ground. The gun keeps firing. When it stops, Mullen does not move again. 2 days later, Corporal James Rizzo, 26 from Paterson, New Jersey, tries to solve the problem the way doctrine demands. Grenades, he crawls forward, counts the distance, waits for a pause. The throw is good, the timing is not. The machine gun resumes fire before he can pull back. He dies where the grenade lands, close enough to feel the concussion, too exposed to survive the return burst. The third is slower, worse. Private Eli Watkins, 19 from Des Moines, Iowa, is hit in the thigh while trying to drag Rizzo back. The round shatters bone but misses the artery. He bleeds anyway, no one can reach him. The guns never stop long enough. Kroft watches Watkins press his helmet against the dirt, teeth clenched, breath coming fast and wet. After 20 minutes the movement's slow. After 30 they stop. None of these men are reckless. None of them panic. They die because the solution they are given does not match the problem in front of them. By the end of the second week, replacement infantry in this sector is lasting an average of 9 days. Kroft does not know the statistic officially. He knows it because he keeps seeing new faces and fewer old ones. The crystallizing moment comes on July 9th, just before dusk. The platoon is halted again, pinned in a shallow depression no more than 18 inches deep. The guns are set farther back this time. Kroft can tell by the sound. The bursts are cleaner, less echo, more confidence. Next to him lies Private Walter "Red" Haskins, 24 from Akron, Ohio. Haskins worked rubber before the war, same hours, same hands. They have spoken maybe a dozen times since landing, enough to recognize the type. Quiet. Reliable, no complaints. Haskins tries to lift his head to look, just an inch too high. The round enters at the temple. There is no sound from Haskins himself, just the impact. Kroft smells cordite and something coppery that does not belong in the earth. He does not look away because there is nowhere else to look. That night, Kroft does not sleep. He thinks about angles, about assistance, about reload timing. About the fact that every machine gun has at least 2 men and that doctrine treats them as one. The next morning he tries to raise it properly. He approaches his squad leader first, a staff sergeant with 2 campaigns behind him and no patience left. Kroft keeps it simple. He suggests selective engagement, not suppression. Removal. He explains that if you take the assistant first, the gun goes quiet longer, that if you work from concealment instead of advancing, you can change the math. The sergeant listens for less than a minute. That's not your job, he says. Your job is to move when told. Kroft nods, tries again later, this time with a lieutenant during a brief lull. He asks, not demands, for time. For permission to adjust his position forward of the line, to use the terrain differently. The lieutenant looks at the rifle, at Kroft's uniform, at the watch on his wrist. We don't have time for experiments, he says. And I'm not signing off on non-regulation nonsense. The word sticks, nonsense. Kroft understands what it means. It means the problem is acknowledged but not owned. It means the schedule matters. Daniel Kroft does not think of it as building a weapon. He thinks of it as correcting a tolerance. The rifle begins as standard issue, wood, steel, familiar weight, but over weeks it has become something narrower in purpose. Nothing that would catch an inspector's eye at a glance. Nothing that could be called experimental. Kroft knows better than to be clever in obvious ways. The balance is the first change. A subtle redistribution of weight toward the rear, achieved with a concealed insert beneath the butt plate. It shortens the perceived length of the rifle inside confined space, allowing him to pivot the muzzle without lifting his elbows. The length remains unchanged. The Army would still recognize it. His shoulder does not. The sights are next, not replaced, adjusted, fixed for a known distance, not a theoretical range. Kroft does not need flexibility. He needs certainty. The front post is blackened with soot to kill glare. The rear is filed just enough to align naturally when his cheek settles into the stock inside a tunnel that will not allow adjustment once he is in position. The trigger remains within regulation pull weight. That matters, but the take-up is smooth, the brake predictable. Kroft does not want surprise. He wants inevitability. Ammunition is chosen carefully, same caliber as everyone else. Same crates, but he selects rounds from the same lot when he can, weighing consistency over raw power. At under 120 yards, penetration is not the problem. Placement is. By the night of July 10, 1944, everything that can be prepared has been prepared. Kroft tests nothing in daylight. He waits until after midnight, when artillery masks sound and the Germans trust their fields. He fires into abandoned ground, counting seconds between shots, feeling how the rifle settles back into his shoulder. He adjusts angles by degrees, inches, nothing dramatic, just enough. He practices reloading without lifting the rifle, working blind, fingers memorizing motion. Inside the tunnel, brass strikes earth with a dull tick instead of a ring. He He notes it, keeps it. By dawn, he knows the rifle will do exactly what he asks. No more, no less. The order that morning is simple: hold position. The platoon is stalled again, exactly where Kroft expects them to be. The Germans have reset their guns overnight, shifting them slightly, improving coverage. The pattern is familiar: 2 guns, overlapping lanes, confidence built on repetition. Kroft does not wait for permission. He moves forward while the platoon is still under sporadic fire, using the noise as cover. The tunnel he dug the night before lies under a hedgerow bend where roots form a natural canopy. The entrance is concealed with loose brush. He slips inside feet first, pulling debris back into place behind him. The space is tighter than he remembers. Earth presses down with quiet weight. The tunnel measures 18 inches high, 3 feet wide, just under 9 feet long. Enough. He crawls forward until the firing slit aligns with the field beyond. Distance to the first machine gun, 94 yards. Elevation difference, 3 feet. Wind, negligible. Less than 2 miles per hour, quartering from the west. Visibility improving, mist thinning. The first burst comes at 6:14. Kroft is already counting. 4 seconds of fire, 3 seconds of silence. Reload. He does not look at the gunner. He looks for the man feeding the belt. At 6:17, the pattern repeats. Kroft settles the rifle. The stock presses into his shoulder. The earth muffles his breathing. He exhales halfway and stops. The safety clicks off. He waits through 2 reload cycles. He wants confirmation, not chance. On the 3rd pause, he fires. The shot is not loud inside the tunnel. It is compressed, swallowed by earth. The recoil comes straight back, controlled, familiar. The assistant gunner drops without sound, the belt slackening as his hands let go. The gun does not fire again immediately. That matters. At 6:18, the gunner tries to compensate alone. He shifts position, dragging the belt toward him. Kroft watches the movement, tracks it, but does not fire. Not yet. He waits for the moment when the gunner must expose himself fully. It comes 8 seconds later. The second shot breaks clean. The gun falls silent. Kroft does not look away. He counts. At 6:19, shouting erupts from the German line. The second machine gun increases its rate, attempting to cover the gap. The fire is heavier, less controlled. Panic leaks into the pattern. Distance to the second gun, 121 yards, slightly farther, slightly higher. Kroft adjusts the muzzle by 2 degrees. He does not rush. At 6:22, he fires again, assistant first. The man stumbles, falls backward, the belt twisting uselessly. The gunner tries to fire alone. The rate drops, the pauses lengthen. At 6:24, Kroft ends it. The field changes character immediately. The tearing sound is gone. In its place, scattered rifle fire, orders shouted without confidence, movement without coordination. The remaining grenadiers attempt to reposition. Kroft does not chase them, he waits for mistakes. At 6:27, a corporal breaks cover to rally his men. Kroft fires once, the man falls, the movement stops. At 6:31, another grenadier crawls toward a fallen machine gun. Kroft lets him reach for it, then fires. Each shot is deliberate, no wasted motion, no urgency beyond necessity. By 6:55, the field is silent. Kroft remains in position for another 5 minutes, listening, feeling the heat in the barrel dissipate, letting his pulse slow. When he finally backs out of the tunnel, the platoon is already moving, slowly, cautiously, into ground that has been killing them for days. No one cheers. They find the ambush line dismantled not by volume but by absence. 2 machine guns abandoned, 8 men down, no orders recorded, no report filed yet. An officer asks who did it. No one answers immediately. Kroft stands off to the side, uniform stained with earth, rifle held low. He says nothing. He does not need to. The field is open now. And word, quiet, unofficial, begins to spread. The change does not arrive with orders. It arrives with whispers. Within 48 hours of the hedgerow engagement, men from neighboring platoons begin to drift past Kroft's position under the pretense of borrowed rations or water, cans that don't quite need filling. Questions are not asked directly. They never are. Instead, someone mentions a machine gun that went quiet faster than it should have. Someone else asks how deep the hedgerow banks really are if you dig with the roots instead of through them. Kroft answers when asked plainly. He does not embellish, he does not instruct. He explains only what he did, not what others should do. Tunnel depth, patience, assistance first, timing over speed. No notes are taken, nothing is written down. By the end of the week, 3 different platoons are doing something subtly different. Men stop rushing the moment the guns open up. They stop wasting grenades against earth that swallows them. They begin to wait, to listen, for reload pauses. A few riflemen push forward at night, just far enough to make tomorrow survivable. Officers notice results before they notice causes. Pinned positions that used to last 30 to 40 minutes now resolve in 15. Casualty counts drop, not dramatically, not heroically, but measurably. Over the next 2 weeks in this sector, platoon losses fall by an estimated 35%. No report attributes the change to any single man or method. The numbers simply improve. Doctrine does not change, practice does. When Kroft is finally called in, it is not for commendation, it is for clarification. A captain asks him to explain how an ambush line collapsed without artillery or maneuver orders. Kroft describes distances, positions, what he could see, what he couldn't. He does not frame it as innovation, he frames it as necessity. The captain listens, asks about the rifle, inspects it, finds nothing that violates regulation in a way that can be easily named. Don't do it again without orders, the captain says. Kroft nods. He does it again anyway when it matters. There is no citation, no mention in after-action reports, no reprimand either. Bureaucracy, when confronted with effectiveness it did not authorize, often chooses silence. The Germans notice faster. Within days, their machine guns begin shifting positions more frequently. Assistants are pulled back, fire lanes shorten. Ambushes that once held ground all morning now dissolve after a few probing shots. The enemy adapts not because of fear, but because predictability has become dangerous. The war moves on. Kroft moves with it through Normandy into France. He survives not because he is invulnerable, but because he understands when not to be seen. He remains a private. Promotions come slowly to men who do not fit categories. When the war ends,